So now we come to the ILO Declaration of Fundamental Principles and Rights of Work. Human, labor and worker rights are comparatively new addition. So previously there was no concern about worker rights or labor rights. There were some peasant revolts and some slave revolts, but it didn't matter much and it didn't change the whole structure of economy or resulted in permanently changing the rights of the labor or worker or slaves. Most people accepted whatever was given. Industrialization in the 18th and 19th century then led the change, and there was a permanent and strong labor movement. Why this resulted in permanent change was that there are a large number of people involved because of industrialization. It also meant that workers are present in one place under one employer. So previously there were of course peasants working for feudal lords, but they were scattered across wide areas. But in case of a factory or industrial establishment in a small area, hundreds of people were working. So they can see each other's plight, they can see each other's problems, and they had the opportunity to organize. There was also a more consciousness about human rights and how humans have some inalienable rights where they will be, which cannot be taken away by anyone. So first change came in, as we have discussed previously, in case of children rights and women rights, when there were restrictions placed on certain industries and certain areas and certain hours in which children and women cannot work. Then there was change in the specific industries, for example mines, as we saw in case of Britain, that there were restrictions of how people will work there, what are their health benefits, what are their pension benefits, and how many hours they can work in a day or in a week. International Labour Organization, or ILO, was formed in 1919. This was the first international global organization that started working on labor rights. It was part of the Treaty of Versailles, which ended the First World War. So it showed the concern of the world leaders about the labor and their rights. In the very first 2 years, there were 9 international labor conventions and 10 recommendations that were agreed upon by the global community under the auspices of ILO. The conventions that were passed or accepted by the different countries were related to key issues such as hours of work. So how many hours of work a week a worker should work. So it was limited to 48 hours and then 40 hours a week. There was concern about unemployment. Should there be some insurance given if a person is unemployed after working in 10 or 20 years? There was also concern about minority maternity. How many weeks will be given to a woman if she is pregnant, before pregnancy, after pregnancy, to take care of her children? There was also a convention on night work for women. So should women be allowed to work at night? And if yes, how many hours? There was also a convention about minimum age of work, so whether it's 18 or 15 or 12. And then there was also a convention on night work by young persons, so between 14 to 18 years of age. So all these concerns, all these conventions dealt with specific issues which were important for labor. In 1948, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights was passed by the United Nations. So ILO was previously part of the League of Nations, and after the Second World War, when there was United Nations, the ILO became an agency of United Nations. So there were two articles of United Nations Declaration of Human Rights that were related to labor and labor rights. So one was 23, which was Article 23, which was related to choice and non-discrimination, and second was 24, which was related to rest and leisure. So in Article 23, there was this idea that everyone has the right to work and to free choice of employment. So employment should not be forced on anyone. Article 23.2 was related to discrimination. So nobody should be discriminated on the basis of gender, race, religion, color, or anything else. Then the Article 23.3 dealt with remuneration. So everybody should be paid handsomely, incompatible with the work he or she is doing. And lastly, everyone has the right to form trade unions. So these were the four parts of the Article 23. Article 24 dealt with the right of rest and leisure. So everybody can be employed to work, but the employer has to give some time, some hours for the worker to rest and leisure. In 1998, ILO had this Declaration of Fundamental Principles and Rights to Work, and this was revised in 2010. And this declaration was focused on, again, different issues related to labor and their rights, whether there's discrimination or maternity leave or paternity leave or choice of work or unemployment benefits. So all these were concerned in the ILO Declaration of Fundamental Rights, Fundamental Principles and Rights. And we will discuss it in the next module. Thank you.